All right. Welcome to this edition of Craig Max Chasing Success. The young lady that you're seeing me share the screen with is a very busy young lady. She is Tashara Robinson, better known, aka TJ. She is a graduate of Texas A&M. She got her master's at Tarleton University. She is an auditor by profession. I know that because we work together. I won't say the name of the company because they don't pay the bills for this podcast. So um, she's married and has four children. Tashara, what's the ages of the kids?
Oh, okay. So my children that I've given birth to, they are ages 25, 23, 21, almost 21, and 10 years old. And then I have a set of bonus children ranging in age from 28 down to 16.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
All right. You are a busy lady. Now, she is also the author of Pitiful to Powerful, it's a book that she wrote. And could you tell us a little bit about the book?
Of course, of course. So the title is From Pitiful to Powerful First, published in 2018. And that book for me was the culmination of all of this wisdom that I felt that I had gathered as a result of my divorce. I
Mhm.
was married for 19 years and I was at home with my four children for 17 years.
Mm.
And after all that time, I decided to divorce. So I know we could spend a whole hour just talking about, hey, how did you decide to divorce after all those years? But
Mhm.
if you get the book, you got to get the book. It is on Amazon, From
Okay.
Pitiful to
Gotta
Powerful.
gotta plug
And
the
it is
book.
real, you got to plug the book. It really is talking about a mindset shift
Mm,
from a pitiful mindset to a powerful mindset. And I realized when I did a self audit, you said I'm an auditor, I do the most auditing on myself through
mhm,
self reflection, that I was keeping myself in some situations that were not life-giving. I was doing it to myself based on how I was thinking. So it's this radical level of self-accountability that I have come to appreciate about myself, where I blame no one. I don't blame my ex-husband. I don't blame the weather. I don't blame the economy for my circumstances in my life. I take full responsibility, understanding that my circumstances really are a reflection of my own thought process. So,
mm,
from pitiful to powerful really is the genesis, that first book where I finally got that epiphany that said, "Oh my goodness, I'm the one that's been keeping my life the way it is because of my own thinking."
mm. So, I've on previous podcasts or just individual podcasts I've done with myself, I talk about the internal conversations that we have. And was that the turning point for you, that shift?
Oh, gosh, yes. First of all, we have to be aware that there is an internal dialogue going on.
Mm, mhm,
Many of us are have been asleep
mhm,
for a long time, where we just go about our lives and we're unengaged. We're just doing everything because that's what the TV says we should do. That's what social media says we should do. But until you, first of all, recognize and acknowledge that there is an internal voice going on that really does drive your behavior, I don't think you really can. That's step one, in my
mhm,
opinion. I call it the subconscious mind. And if you think about an iceberg, they say 90% of the volume of an iceberg is below sea level.
mm,
That's the same with your subconscious mind, that
mm,
internal dialogue. 90% of your motives and your reasons behind why you do what you do is that subconscious mind. It's that tape that keeps playing in your mind about the concept of yourself and your world that you don't pay attention to. You just think, oh, that's just, I guess, who I am. No, 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 no. That is the first step. First, acknowledge that you have a tape running in your head. What is that tape saying? If
mhm,
it's telling you things that are not life giving, not life affirming, then it makes sense why you have the circumstances that you have in your life.
mhm,
And I know what I'm saying for some people will spark a debate. Some people will even get mad at me for saying that.
Mhm.
Their first response will be, "What do you mean? I think you're being insensitive, Tashara. What do you mean my circumstances are my fault? You don't know what happened to me. You don't know what they did to me." And to that, I say, there's still a responsibility that I have, even in my response to some poor behavior, poor treatment, uh, immoral treatment by someone else. I can't control what they did, but I can control my response. If we're just willing to accept that responsibility,
Mhm.
there's still hope for traction and improvement in a person's life. But the first step, again, is to recognize there is an internal dialogue that's going on in your head. What is it saying? That subconscious mind is saying something. First, let's recognize what that is.
Mm. So, do you think that um, the opinions from that subconscious mind, do you think it's a product of the environment they live, the upbringing that people have lived in, or what they've been exposed to in life?
Of course, of course. To say that the subconscious mind is only made up of one component would be erroneous. The
Mm.
subconscious mind to me is like a computer program. There's so many components, right? So of course, your subconscious mind, your beliefs, that internal dialogue is made up of your environment, what you've been exposed to. But there's also a part of you, if you're honest with yourself, that is just who you are.
Mhm.
I can say that, yes, many of my beliefs came from my environment, but I can also say there's also been some beliefs that were different from my environment, right?
Mhm.
Many of us who like to listen to these types of podcasts, if you're honest with yourself, you probably can recall when someone says, "That Tashar, she's a little different. She doesn't really fit in here." So,
Mm.
yes, the subconscious mind is made of your environment, what you've been exposed to, but there's also that piece that's uniquely, distinctly you.
Mm.
I see it in myself. Yes, there are a lot of parts of my personality that I didn't get from my environment. It's just part of my innate personality, right?
Mm.
So I guess the choice now is, what are you going to do with all of those components?
Mhm.
What power are you going to give to those components? And
Mhm.
therein lies where we have to ascend the throne and take the reins back of that internal dialogue and basically say, I don't care what I was exposed to,
Mhm.
especially if it isn't life-giving. I'm choosing not to allow that
Mhm.
belief anymore to
Mhm.
run its course in my subconscious.
For you, it was an event. It was a divorce
Mm,
that
mhm,
opened that epiphany that you had about
correct.
yourself. What advice would you give to someone, just in general, to take control of their thought process?
Mm, well, I would first say, I don't think that you should wait, or you don't have to wait till some horrible event comes along to awaken you to
Mhm.
the fact that your circumstances are a result of your thought process. I think it takes a brave person. I think it takes a curious person to
Mhm.
even ask the question and even accept this as a truth, as a
Mhm.
law, that my circumstances are a direct result of my thoughts, my feelings, and my beliefs. So for me, it's almost like learning your multiplication tables, learning your alphabet, learning your numbers. When you were in kindergarten and the teacher said, "This is the alphabet, A through Z," you didn't question that. You accepted that wholeheartedly. Like, okay, those are the alphabet. These are the
Mhm.
numbers. You
Mhm.
accepted that, right?
Right.
You accepted the law of gravity, right? What
Right.
goes up must come down. There are
Mhm.
other principles and laws in electricity. I think it's called Ohm's law. right? Where electricity has to travel through a circuit. There are laws in computer science.
Mm-hmm.
You accept these as the foundation of everything that you're going to build upon. Because if you don't understand and accept the foundation, there is no there is no moving forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I have to say that one must accept this by faith. I know that word may conjure up some different images in a person's mind, but you've been doing it all your life. You just didn't
Mm-hmm.
know it. You
Mm-hmm.
accepted the alphabet from your kindergarten teacher by faith.
Mm-hmm.
You accepted those numbers by faith. You accepted the law of gravity by faith. Here's another law that I'm going to encourage all to accept by faith. And that is this is the law. My circumstances are a direct result of my consistent thoughts, feelings, and behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
That sounds very similar to. Correct me if I'm wrong. That sounds very similar to the law of attraction. That
Hmm.
what you think about, you bring
Hmm.
about. What you
Hmm.
focus on is what you attract towards you. And
Hmm.
so, is it possible to control those thoughts and guide them or redirect them towards a goal, so to
Of
speak?
course. Of course. Because
Because
finish.
I was going to say, I know that you have a workbook that you have with your book
Mm-hmm.
that you kind of list your daily tasks, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if
Mm-hmm.
you write it down, to me, because I believe in the law of attraction, and I believe that if you have a goal, you write it down, and to me, it's like when you write something down, it's the like ink sinking into the paper is what you're sinking into your subconscious. And
Hmm.
so by doing that, you start the seeds of manifestation to bring to you
Hmm.
what you want.
Hmm.
Is that a fair statement?
I would say so. And I would just like to expound upon that just a little
Okay.
bit. So there's the book From Pitiful to Powerful. Then I
Mhm.
have a workbook from Pitiful to Powerful. And then I have a daily planner. So
Ah.
that workbook, that one book in between, is where I go into detail, where I walk the reader through pretty much testing themselves
Mm.
just to bring to the reader's awareness that guess what? You've been doing this already. You just didn't know that you were doing it. For
Mhm.
instance, notice when you say, I'm going to go to the grocery store. You've made a decision, you've made a list, you are focused, you go to get your milk, eggs, and cheese, and you're done, right?
Mhm.
One could call that the law of attraction, right? You
Mhm.
had an intention, you
Mhm.
made a list, and you did it. How
Mhm.
about this? What, what about when you're angry? Or when you're sad and you turn on that sad music, guess
Mhm.
what happens? You start to feel sad. You start to embody those sad feelings. And guess what's happening? You're going to feel more sad. You want to listen to more sad songs. Hmm.
Mhm.
When you're angry, have you noticed that when you're angry and you just let your mouth say whatever, guess what? You're going to incite more anger from the situation, from the person, and you're going to get what? More anger. So the
Mhm.
point is, we have been following this process all along unconsciously,
Mm.
okay? Wielding this power like a novice, like somebody with a Jedi sword, and you're just going around just wrecking wreaking havoc on your life because you don't understand the power that you hold
Mm.
through your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs, and then your circumstances. So let's first acknowledge that you're already doing this. You just don't have a name for it. You just
Mm.
have not made the unconscious conscious.
Well,
So I understand a lot of people hear that word law of attraction and they're automatically turned off. Oh, that's not this. Okay, well, put another name to it. Call
mm,
it something else.
right.
Because what I don't want to do is turn people off because of a vocabulary word. Just look at the action
Mhm.
because you're doing it.
Right.
And I have the perfect example, and I've already talked to my mom about this, so I don't think she would mind me sharing this. Um, After my divorce, I lived with my mother and my stepfather for about 4 years.
Mm.
And I thought that situation, I thought it was the most ideal. My mother and I just had one argument, just one. And I remember how it happened. Let me go to the end and then I'll go back. At
Okay.
the end of that argument, I remember the Holy Spirit saying, "You brought that on, Tashara." And I said, "I sure did." I was able, I was able to own that. And I figured out a formula. You are a math and science guy, Craig.
Hmm.
So you know science is nothing more than a formula,
Mm.
right? Science experiments are nothing more than hypothesis, and you're proving the hypothesis through your testing, right?
Correct.
I did the same thing with my circumstances, and this is what I came up with, specifically referring to the argument I had with my mother. I had a feeling. It was a weekend where my kids were with me and I was feeling sad. I had a thought. I don't have my own house. My kids don't have their own room. That was the thought. I need you to follow this process. Then I started feeling sad. Most importantly, I started embodying that woe is me. I
Mm.
don't have my own house. My
Hmm.
kids don't have their own room. I was at dinner with my oldest son, my youngest son, and my youngest daughter. And my oldest son has zero filter, right? So my mother calls me on my cell phone. And I told my older son, I said, just answer it. My older son answered the phone and says to my mother, "Well, my mom doesn't want to talk to you." And it was over
Wow.
because my son looked at me. What did he see, Craig? He saw me all slumped over and
Hmm.
sad. And he's a child. He didn't know what I was thinking and feeling. He just assumed, well, guess she don't want to talk to her mom. And my
Right.
mom's like, well, fine. I don't want to talk to her either. And therein goes the weekend of argument. But then I had to sit back and analyze. I
That's
brought
the
that on
energy you
myself.
was putting out.
That's the energy I was putting out.
Right.
Now, like I said, you can call it what you want. You can
Hmm.
call it law of attraction. You can call it sowing and reaping. It's the
Mm.
same concept. And
True.
that's what I really want our readers to understand. Forget the words, forget the vocabulary, study the behavior, study
Hmm.
the formula. So for me, that was a wonderful lesson because
Mm.
basically what that said was if I can bring about chaos
Hmm.
in my life based on a thought, a feeling, me embodying that feeling, and then watching all hell break loose. Huh,
Hmm.
I wonder what I could do if I was intentional about my thoughts and my feelings in whatever spirit I was embodying. Change the game for me.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I kind of have my own example of the law of attraction at work because I believe that once the key to it also is not only with your thoughts, but when you make up your mind and commit to something that you want and you're all in with your thoughts about it, that you have to then raise your awareness of what takes place. Like you'll people that you become, how do I put it? You'll find that you'll run into people that will be able to support what you're doing. For example, you and I, for example, we used to cross paths in the hallway or in the lobby, right? Remember
Hmm,
that?
hmm. Yes, I
And
do.
and then one day we were wound up in the break room together, right?
Hmm.
And
That's right.
you and I just struck up a conversation, and then I
Yes.
brought up the idea of this podcast to you and what it would be about. And then
Yep.
it seemed like the floodgates opened up. And then you start talking to me about your book and what it was about. And we, kind of talked about
Hmm.
the law of attraction. I said, I got to have you on so you can talk about it because I found somebody that understands what I'm trying to get across with these podcasts with your thought process.
Hmm.
And so I think, by raising my awareness is what attracted us to have that dialogue, okay,
Hmm.
that brought
Hmm.
it about. And now here we are.
Here we
Out of
are.
all the people I work with, all the people that's in the suite and the cubicles and all that, we were able to connect and have that in common to bring this about. And I think that people, like you said, they sleep on that. They're not aware of that extra ability that you have within yourself. It's like faith. You don't see it, but it is a part of you. It's an ability that you have. I want to go back a little bit to, when we were talking about the environment, or your some of your thoughts part of your environment. From what I understand, 80% your 80% of you is pre-wired. It's
Hmm.
from the behaviors from your parents that come into you.
Hmm.
80%, that's 80% of you is that makeup between your two parents.
Hmm.
10% is from your environment, and the other 10% is what you learn on your own. So it kind of goes into what you were talking about, the part that you learn on your own. And so you have to be able to, I think you have to be able to control your thoughts. And it's not easy. Do you think it's easy?
Hmm. Okay, so
I went through a lot there, but
here's what I would say. Okay. Again, what I may say may tick somebody off.
that's all right.
I'm very, very careful about the words I speak.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, because I understand again the power of my emotion and my feelings and my words, I've learned not to argue for my limitations.
Mm.
With that being said, I rarely say, "Oh, that's hard." No, no, no,
Mm.
no. Mm-mm.
Because you give them
This is
power, right?
because, again,
Yeah.
those of us who speak so recklessly about our life and our circumstances, I cringe. I cringe because I want to say, oh my God, you're bringing that hell, damnation, and condemnation on your own head just by the words you speak.
Life and death in
So,
the tongue.
that's word. That
Mm-hmm.
is word. But many of us we just think that's a cute saying.
Mm-hmm.
I've experienced it for myself.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to say what my grandparents used to say. I'm not telling you what I heard, I'm telling you what I know.
Mm.
Okay. So back to what you said, thoughts being hard to control. Well, here's what I would say about that. If that is a person's belief, not my belief, one way to make it easier is to say this: I am willing to change my thoughts.
Mm.
Let's just start there. Because for some people, they're so used to struggle.
Mm-hmm.
They have programmed themselves for grinding and mule labor and everything's hard. Oh, see, I don't have that belief. But
Mm-hmm.
for many of us, no, no, for many of some people, they have that belief. So to take them from that belief to where I am is too big of a jump.
Mm.
And your body can't take it. Your belief system can't take it. Let's just
Mm-hmm.
call it what it is.
Mm-hmm.
See, there's another principle at work. It is done unto you as you believe. That's how
Mm.
powerful you are. Okay.
Mm.
So because it's done unto you as you believe, that's a law that you have to accept by faith or not. But I can tell you, I can show you in your own life that you're already operating under that law. So if that is a law, it's done unto you as you believe, I have to respect your belief system,
Mm.
right? If you think it's hard, okay,
Right.
okay, but don't be mad at me if that's not my belief,
Right.
okay?
Got you.
Because a belief that I have is I'm so happy and grateful that I can change my belief at any time.
And that's important. That you can change your circumstance at any point just
I
by your
can.
thought. Yeah.
I can. But like I said, I have to acknowledge that there is a population of people out here who will dismiss what I'm saying as fairy tale-ish, and I
Sure.
get it because guess what? I was there too.
Mm-hmm.
And let me go back. When you're stuck in a rut, as my granny would like to say, you're mad at the world. You're mad at whomever because they did this, and that's why you're in the situation you're in now. When someone comes along to say, you can change your life with your thoughts, it's going to tick you off. I get it because I've been there. But what I had to do to get on the other side was I literally had to sit in that pit, sit in that rut. And guess what? I had to get tired of sitting in the rut.
Mm-hmm.
So it was when I got tired and say, Well, you know what? This is for the birds. Now, what I got to do again? Then I became curious.
Hmm.
Then I became interested. Now, how do I do this again? So now I was willing. My resistance was down. So that goes to show you that's another formula. I can't make you or anyone else get tired of being tired,
Hmm.
get tired of that situation. That's an internal change that has to come. And when
Hmm.
they are ready, guess what? It's a saying I love. When the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Mm.
But the student has to decide, okay, you know what? I'm ready for a change. I
Hmm.
can't decide that. Again, life for the chicken begins on the inside. The little chick has to stick out his beak from inside the shell.
True.
Okay? Mama can't come by and chick's not ready.
Hmm.
The same with this process. Okay?
Mm. It
If a
is a
person
process.
it is, but the
Hmm.
first step is recognizing that, yeah, you may be in a pit, but guess where the ladder is to help you get out of the pit? It's in there with you.
Hmm. I think that, once again, once you focus in on wanting to make a change, I think that the clues to the solution come to you like breadcrumbs. They do. I mean, you just, like I said, that's why you have to raise your awareness, and the clues will then reveal themselves to you, and that you have to take advantage of it.
Well, what we're talking about, again, if we're talking about formulas, the
Hmm.
first step in that formula is to decide, to make a decision.
Right.
When I decide to go to the store,
Hmm.
I make a list and I go. There's no
Hmm.
resistance. When
Hmm.
I decide that I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, the way appears.
Hmm.
But that decision has to come from within me, just like somebody losing weight.
Hmm.
I can nag somebody all day. You know you are blah blah. That's a nag. They haven't decided to lose weight. So guess what I'm going to do? Be quiet. They're
Right.
not ready. They're
Yeah.
they're not sick and tired of being sick and tired of that situation. And you can put
Hmm.
anything in there. You can put anything. Being in a toxic relationship, being on a dead end job, or whatever.
Hmm.
Have you decided that you wanted a change? If you haven't decided that, then what's the conversation about?
Right. Now, the theme of this podcast is about achieving success, or the mindset of people that have achieved success. And I think that some of the people that will listen to this podcast, some of them may be interested in writing a book. And
Mm.
so, my question to you is, what were the steps that you took? Well, first of all, what made you decide to write the book?
The first step that I came to said, I need to write this down. After my divorce, I found I had all of this kind of download of wisdom for lack of a better
Mm.
term. And I would just post these positive sayings on my Facebook page or whatever and Instagram. And then I thought, I need to put all this together. So that was the impetus. I found that after my divorce, those positive sayings were cathartic for me. It was a
Mm.
cleansing. It was making sense. And I had to just share that in my own way, which was, like I said, through social media. And I said,
Hmm.
I need to put all this together, right?
Mm.
There's a system, there's a foundation, there's a principle here that I need to codify and crystallize and put it out there so that others can read it. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I realized I needed to write a book for my children. So,
Mm.
of course, when you do your own research about starting to write a book, one of the first steps they say is, why are you writing the book? What is the purpose?
Right.
Is it to entertain? Is it to educate?
Right.
Is it to impart knowledge? So I was very clear. I wanted to educate, and I kept my focus super narrow on my children.
Mm.
What could I write my children where if they go through a tough time, they can say, aha, my mother wrote a book. I'm going to read it.
Hmm.
So keeping my audience extremely narrow helped me focus on the book. Because, of course, if I started thinking about, oh my God, the whole world and this vast topic of changing your mindset is so huge, I felt overwhelmed.
Hmm.
But when I was able to just have that tunnel vision, this book is for my children.
Mm.
It poured like water. I literally wrote the book in 3 days, like over the weekend.
Wow.
I did.
Again, that what I was mentioning about how the solutions will come to you once you get focused on it. So did you publish it yourself?
I did. I did. I
Okay.
published all the books through Amazon
Mm,
Publishing. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
All
Again,
right.
so again, all the information is here, right? But once I let my mind go, okay, I'm ready. It just was a matter of steps. It's not
Yeah.
rocket science. It's just a
Right.
matter of steps and completing them.
Right. Right. Okay. All right. But Tashara, I've really enjoyed. I'm glad you spent this time with me. Um,
Thank you for the invitation.
I've learned a whole lot, and I suspect that the listeners will learn a lot as well. And you had mentioned the rationale for why you wrote the book, and
Mhm.
one of the reasons that I'm doing these podcasts, like you said, is for my children or my future grandchildren to
Yeah.
be able to obtain some wisdom from these different episodes that I put in, and learn from people like yourselves and others. So again, I really appreciate you being on here with us
Thank you.
and with me. And thank you so
Thank
much.
you
Again,
again,
the book
Craig.
is From Pitiful to Powerful, and this is Tashara Robinson, aka TJ. And
Thanks, Craig.
thank you again. Talk to you soon.
Talk soon.
Bye.